For 60 years, the world was told a single story, a lone wolf. But the truth was never that simple. In 2025, 80,000 pages of classified files were thrust into the light, shattering decades of silence. They reveal that the CIA was tracking Lee Harvey Oswald's every move weeks before that tragic day in Dallas. This intelligence was never shared with the Secret Service. The question is, why did they choose to hide it? Memos suggest an impersonator was used to link Oswald to the USSR, creating a false motive for murder. Kennedy's intent to dismantle the agency created a rift that would change history. The 2025 release finally documents the depth of that conflict. And then there is the missing evidence. The president's brain, removed for study, vanished from the National Archives in 1966. The 2025 files are just the beginning. Next, we meet the man hired to ensure these secrets stayed buried. In the late 1970s, as the House Select Committee reopened the investigation into the president's death, the CIA appointed a man named George Joannides as their liaison. But the agency kept a critical secret from the investigators. Joannides wasn't just a bureaucrat. Under the alias Howard Mark Gebler, he had been a deep-cover case officer. His mission in 1963, overseeing the Directorio Revolucionario Estudiantil, or the DRE, a radical anti-Castro Cuban student group based in Miami. 3 months before the assassination, this group was in direct contact with Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans. They clashed in the streets, and Oswald even wrote them a letter. For 60 years, the CIA maintained they knew nothing of Oswald's activities. The 2025 declassifications prove this was a lie. Joannides was the man in the middle. By making Joannides the liaison to the very committee investigating his own group's links to the assassin, the CIA ensured that the full truth remained buried for a generation. The Joannides revelation confirms a systematic cover-up at the highest levels. But it isn't the only piece of the official story that has recently shattered. For decades, the magic bullet was the linchpin of the official story. One bullet, they claimed, caused 7 wounds in 2 men. In 2023, the final witness broke 60 years of silence. Paul Landis, a Secret Service agent only feet away from JFK that day, came forward. Landis reveals he found the pristine bullet lodged in the upholstery of the president's limousine, not on Governor Connolly's stretcher as the world was told. Fearing it would be lost, he pocketed it and later placed it on Kennedy's own stretcher inside Parkland Hospital. This single act changes everything. If the bullet popped out of Kennedy's back and never hit Connolly, the single bullet theory collapses. And with it, the conclusion that Oswald acted alone. Mathematically, it was impossible for one man to fire that many shots in so little time. The Landis testimony points to a second gunman. The cracks in the official narrative are widening. But if there was a second shooter, where did the shots really come from? The answers lie in the grassy knoll. The grassy knoll. To the official narrative, it was just a hill. But to dozens of witnesses, it was the source of the fatal shots. Over 50 people reported hearing shots or seeing smoke from behind this fence. They were ignored by the Warren Commission, but their testimony remained. In 1979, the House Select Committee dropped a bombshell. Acoustic analysis of a police recording gave a 95% probability of a second gunman. Found in a railroad car shortly after the shots, the 3 tramps became one of the day's greatest mysteries. Were they genuine transients or professional hitmen? Decades of speculation linked them to the CIA and the Watergate burglars. The lack of arrest records suggested a high-level protection program. It wasn't until 1992 that missing records identified them as genuine vagrants. But for many, the late reveal only added to the suspicion of a 60-year cover-up. The evidence of the knoll points to a shooter from the front, a direction confirmed by the most controversial frames in history, back and to the left. The Zapruder film. 26 seconds of silent 8mm footage that became the most studied forensic clock in history. It was the only witness that couldn't be intimidated. But for 12 years, the most graphic frames were hidden. Life magazine bought the rights for $150,000, then locked the fatal shot in a vault. It wasn't until 1975 that the public finally saw what the government had known. The reaction was immediate. The lone wolf theory was dead. The motion was undeniable. Back and to the left. To every viewer, it screamed of a shot from the front, a shot the official report claimed never happened. To protect the narrative, scientists proposed the jet effect. They argued an explosion of matter from the front could recoil the head backward, a theory built on melons and guesswork. Others blamed a neuromuscular spasm, a total body seizure triggered by brain trauma. Anything to explain away the physics of a second shooter. The film provided the timeline, but the body held the physical proof. To find the truth of the shots, we must look at the evidence that was altered. The autopsy at Bethesda. As the sun set on November 22nd, the president's body was flown to Bethesda Naval Hospital. A choice made for tradition, but one that would lead to forensic chaos. Inside the morgue, inexperienced pathologists worked under the intense gaze of military brass. The atmosphere was one of intimidation, not investigation. Following the examination, the president's brain was placed in a stainless steel container. By 1966, it had vanished from the National Archives, never to be seen again. Records show the brain weighed more than a healthy one, an impossibility for a victim of a massive head wound. This has led to the chilling theory of a substitute brain. Navy technicians later testified that the photos in the archives were not the ones they developed. They spoke of a gaping hole in the back of the head, one that the official record hides. The discrepancy remains the core of the mystery. Parkland saw a shot from the front. Bethesda documented a shot from the rear. 2 stories, 1 body. The medical evidence was fractured beyond repair. But to truly understand the cover-up, we must look at the man they called the assassin and the secrets he carried to the grave. Who was Lee Harvey Oswald? A marksman, a defector, or a man caught between 2 worlds? To find the truth of the assassination, we must first look at the assassin. In 1959, he shocked the world by defecting to the Soviet Union. In the city of Minsk, he lived in relative luxury, but he was never alone. Every word was recorded. He returned to America in 1962 with a Russian wife and a heart full of disillusionment. But the quiet life in Dallas was a facade for a much deeper mystery. The summer of '63 in New Orleans remains a riddle. He worked for pro-Castro causes out of an office shared with anti-communist agents and gun runners. By October, he was back in Dallas working as an order filler. A ghost in a rooming house, moving steadily toward a date with destiny in Dealey Plaza. "I'm just a patsy," he told the world. It was a claim he would never have the chance to prove. Within 48 hours, he was silenced forever. Oswald's story ended in a police corridor. But the mystery of his connections was only just beginning. To follow the trail, we must follow the money. For a man earning minimum wage, Oswald's financial discipline was extraordinary. He repaid his government loan with a speed that baffled investigators. In Minsk, his income was secretly doubled by the Soviet Red Cross, a monetary allotment that granted a simple laborer a life of relative luxury. But it was his 1963 trip to Mexico City that raised the most questions. $85 for travel and hotels, a fortune for an unemployed man. Then there was Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner drowning in $40,000 of tax debt. A man with everything to lose and a powerful motive to please the wrong people. Declassified logs reveal a surge in calls to the underworld in the weeks before Dallas. Ruby wasn't just a local character, he was a man with deep, dangerous connections. And in the middle was George de Mohrenschildt, a wealthy CIA contact who guided Oswald into a circle of influence. Was he a mentor or a financial conduit? The money leaves a trail, but it often leads to a dead end. Because in the years following Dallas, those who knew the most began to disappear. In the years following Dallas, a chilling pattern emerged. Witnesses, investigators, and journalists who dared to look too closely began to die in unusual numbers. Dorothy Kilgallen was a superstar journalist and the only reporter to secure a private interview with Jack Ruby. She told friends she was about to break the case wide open. In 1965, she was found dead of a suspicious overdose. Her notes for the JFK book she was writing, the ones that would change everything, were never found. Lee Bowers, the railroad worker who saw 2 men behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll, met a similar fate. His testimony directly challenged the lone wolf narrative. In 1966, Bowers died when his car suddenly veered off an empty road. Another key witness silenced before his full story could be heard by the world. From CIA contacts to military doctors, the message was clear. Some secrets were worth killing for. The official report called it coincidence. The world called it a cover-up. The witnesses were gone, but the motive remained. To find the source of the order, we must look at the men who lost the most when Kennedy took power. After the Bay of Pigs, the trust between the president and his intelligence agency was shattered. Kennedy felt he had been cynically manipulated into a disaster. In private, he vowed to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. He began stripping their power over paramilitary operations. To finalize the break, Kennedy fired the agency's top leadership, Director Allen Dulles and Deputy Director Charles Cabell. It was a personal and bitter dismissal. But there was a connection in Dallas the world ignored. The city's mayor, Earl Cabell, was the brother of the fired CIA deputy, and, as we now know, a CIA asset himself. Under Cabell's watch, the motorcade route was changed at the 11th hour, forcing the president's car to slow to a crawl directly in front of the book depository. The ultimate irony followed. Allen Dulles, the man Kennedy had fired in disgrace, was appointed to the very commission tasked with investigating his murder. The motive was clear, and the players were in place. To see the full picture, we must look at the event not as a murder, but as a high-level coup d'etat. In October 1963, Kennedy signed NSAM 263. It was a formal plan to begin withdrawing American personnel from Vietnam, a way out that the military brass deeply opposed. Simultaneously, he was using a secret back channel to Soviet Premier Khrushchev, bypassing his own hardline agencies to seek a lasting peace. Just 2 days before Dallas, the Honolulu conference revealed a dark reality. The policy machinery was already preparing for a pivot, even while the president was still alive. Within 48 hours of the assassination, the new president met with his advisors. LBJ immediately questioned the withdrawal, signaling a radical shift in intent. On November 26th, Johnson signed NSAM 273. While it claimed continuity, it secretly broadened operations, moving the nation from an advisory role to direct combat. The accounting exercise of withdrawal continued for the public, but the internal trajectory had changed. The road to the Gulf of Tonkin was now open. The policy reversal was immediate. The national security state had secured its victory, but the greatest deception was yet to be revealed: the truth of the missing films. Zapruder wasn't the only one filming that day. At least a dozen other cameras were pointed at the motorcade, capturing angles the official story preferred to ignore. Orville Nix captured the final shot from the opposite side of the plaza. His film showed the grassy knoll in high detail the government seemed desperate to control. In 1978, the original Nix film was subpoenaed for forensic study. It vanished while in government custody, leaving investigators with only grainy, second-generation copies. Then there is the Babushka lady. While others dived for cover, she remained standing, filming the fatal shots at point-blank range. She has never been identified. Witnesses like Beverly Oliver claimed their film was confiscated by men identifying as FBI agents, promised a return that never came. A systematic collection of evidence. Declassified memos reveal a frantic effort to track every camera in the plaza. What remained in the archives was selective. What was lost was often the most revealing. The missing films are a hole in history. But as the visual trail went cold, a new lead emerged from the shadows of Mexico City, a lead that pointed to a ghost. In late September 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald arrived in Mexico City. To the world, it was a desperate trip for a visa. To the CIA, it was a high-stakes game of shadows. He made frantic visits to both the Soviet and Cuban embassies. But unbeknownst to him, he had walked directly into one of the CIA's most sophisticated surveillance nets, Operation Leanvoy. Every phone call to the embassies was recorded. The CIA knew Oswald's name within days. But when the recordings were analyzed, a chilling truth emerged. The CIA provided a photo of Oswald in Mexico City. But the man in the picture was not him. He was older, larger, a ghost used to link Oswald to the KGB. J. Edgar Hoover told President Johnson the truth. The voice on the tapes and the man in the photos did not match Oswald. Someone else was using his name. Oswald was linked to a high-level KGB assassin. It was the perfect setup, a dangle operation designed to make him look like a Soviet agent just weeks before Dallas. The Mexico City trip was the Rosetta Stone of the cover-up. But as the trial went cold, the focus shifted to the man who finally pulled the trigger on the assassin himself. November 24, 1963. 48 hours after the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald was being moved through a public basement filled with the eyes of the world. In the first homicide ever captured live on national television, Jack Ruby stepped from the shadows and fired a single shot. The assassin was silenced before he could speak. "You all know me," he shouted as police tackled him. Ruby claimed he killed Oswald to redeem Dallas and spare Jacqueline Kennedy the pain of a trial. But the official story ignored his deep ties to the underworld. Ruby was a small-timer with big connections connections that had everything to gain from Oswald's death. Sentenced to death, Ruby's conviction was later overturned, but he would never face a second trial. A new, more permanent silence was approaching. In 1967, Ruby died of a sudden aggressive cancer at Parkland Hospital, the same place where JFK and Oswald had died. To the end, he claimed he was injected with the disease. The execution of the patsy was complete. The trail was cold, but the legacy of the secrets remains, waiting for the final truth to be revealed. In 2025, the era of state secrecy finally came to an end. An executive order mandated the immediate and unredacted release of every remaining file. 80,000 pages of secrets were suddenly thrust into the light. From forensic details to intelligence methods, the archives were finally opened to the world. For many, the documents confirm a chilling perspective, that Dallas was not the act of a lone madman, but a high-level coup d'etat by the national security state. The Joannides files, withheld for 60 years, highlight a pattern of administrative harm. The agency's own reputation was protected over the national interest. Today, only 16% of Americans believe the official story. The legacy of secrecy has become a threat to the stability of the social contract itself. As the files are digitized, history is being rewritten. Conspiracy theory is transitioning into documented fact, the end of an era of state secrecy. The truth was never simple, and the secrets were never meant to be told. But after 60 years, the story of John F. Kennedy is finally complete.